seats in case you feel like tweeting and yada yada. So, all right, here we are. Hello, welcome to the season finale of Nightcaps, a podcast and talk show presented by AIGA Philadelphia and recorded live at United by Blue Coffee House and Clothier in Old City. Every month, each season, we'll gather to talk about the ins and outs of the design industry with regional creative leaders and celebrate the creativity and diversity of Philadelphia. I'm your host, Mikey Illigan, Editor-in-Chief of Geekadelphia, the city's premier geek blog and also founders of the Philly Geek Awards, an annual event awarding the most outstanding geeks from our thriving tech, science, and creative communities. Behind me is Josh Carter on our magic audio machine. And tonight the discussion topic is self-promo tactics. We're going to hear from 3 local professionals about how they get their work in front of people. If you're doing great work and there's no one there to hear about it, are you really doing great work? Hopefully our guests can imbue us with their knowledge. Each of them has made a name for themselves by mastering the art of self-promotion. Also, this looks like the biggest crowd we've ever had, so mission successful. Furthest from me, we have Hilary Sedgwick, who was born and raised in Amherst, Massachusetts. She moved to Philadelphia in 2000 to pursue a degree in photography from UArts. Acknowledging her love for beautiful type, well-composed layouts, and sharp identity work, she decided to declare graphic design as her major. While there, she refined her skills in multiple areas, including print, digital typography, identity, and photography. Because of her passion to create and grow as an artist, she can be found at home working on any number of design and web projects. She's currently with Allen and Garretson and was previously an art director at O3 World. In the middle, we have Mario Zucca, who earned his BFA from Tyler School of Art and his MFA from University of Hartford. Mario has been illustrating for nearly a decade and has worked for a broad range of clients in the editorial, book, advertising, and institutional fields. He counts among his clients Time Inc., the New York Times, ESPN Magazine, Maxim, the National Football League, NFLPA, Crayola, Klutz, Quirk Books, and Dribbble DDB. Currently, Mario works out of his home studio in Philly and teaches illustration at the Tyler School of Art and Philadelphia University. Something's happening. Something's happening. I guess
it's just aliens.
It does sound like aliens.
I do feel like it's
getting higher
now.
pitch.
They try turning stuff off. I don't know.
Oh, it's
Really?
now it's getting higher.
It sounds like Excite Bike. There we go. Yay!
Yeah! Let's do this thing!
All right, I'm gonna re-record that last bit about Mario. So currently Mario works out of his home studio in Philly and teaches illustration at the Tyler School of Art and Philly University. So, and last but not least, we have Britt Miller, closest to me. She's been actively painting and selling artwork since 2004. Resonating with the creative vibes around her, she draws inspiration from life in Philly with its unique people, neighborhoods, entertainment, and nightlife. She is represented by Bluestone Fine Art Gallery, which is actually next door, and her paintings have been featured in several local art exhibitions. Her art and design work includes set artwork for CBS 3's Pop Philly, a specialty truffle box for Tusher chocolates, custom press kits for Visit Philly's With Art Philadelphia campaign, client holiday gifts for NBC 10, artwork for Philadelphia Business Journal's 2013 Book of Lists. And there we have it. Our awesome creative professionals, and thank you for dealing with the aliens or whatever just happened. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to sit down first. And so, Mario, let's get started. Is there anything else that wasn't in your bio that you'd like to mention?
No, I think you covered it.
All right. Well then, Hilary,
Yeah.
what else would you like to say about your work? What have you been working on lately at A&G, maybe client work that, I didn't bring up?
Since being at A&G, probably in the past year, my primary focus there has been on Dietz and Watson
That's kind of my main client that I'm handling. And outside of work, I've been doing a lot of illustration work. Recently, I just did a illustration for Grid Magazine for their local food guide.
Okay.
So finding that balance between personal work as well as the advertising work.
Yeah, we covered a lot of freelance. Last episode we had a lot of freelancers, or 3, which is a lot. And we talked about the transition from full-time to freelance work. But you currently do both. What would you say is the most challenging part about balancing, the agency life, which can be, agency life, and freelance on the side?
I think probably the toughest thing to balance with those is, you're committing yourself to a job, that's a 9 to 5 or whatever the determined hours are, but at an agency, it's pretty unpredictable. I mean, projects are going to come along, you're going to get feedback, things are going to happen at like 5 o'clock that you weren't expecting. And having to take that stuff into account while maybe you're trying to meet a deadline that's outside of work, finding that balance can be pretty tough. So I just try to do my best to make sure that when I have a freelance project, they're very aware of my schedule so that they can kind of respect that. And then I just try to keep, them posted that if anything's coming up, they're aware of it.
That's awesome. You also balance a lot of, I guess, work and freelance. I guess if for all your commissions, Britt, what would you say about the whole combination of working full time and trying to get your painting done on the side, and also running 30,000 miles a week like you do?
It's definitely a balance. I work full time, not in the I guess, graphic design or creative industry, like Hilary and Mario. But so I mean, like anything else, it's a balance. I go to work, all day, and then do commissions at night, or on the weekends. You just learn to fit it in.
Gotcha. So Mario, do you teach, I guess, full time on a full time schedule, and then do illustration as you have been at the same time? How does that work?
I teach 2 days a week. That's a schedule I've had for the last 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice because it breaks up my week. I do like Tuesday, Thursday I teach. So, and I pretty much teach all day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like Monday I'm in the studio, Tuesday I teach, Wednesday studio. It's great. I love that schedule, and I'm glad I've been able to maintain that for a while. It really does break up the week, and it gets me like back in that setting again, that classroom setting,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm less of a hermit, and I feel like I'm not going to go crazy anymore.
So you use the steady job to kind of anchor things for you.
It's not,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, but tonight's topic is self-promotion. Looks like you have a lot of awesome clients. I guess to start with the idea of self-promotion, how'd you obtain these clients, and what can you tell me about them?
Well, I was just telling them that like, a couple of those I actually probably haven't worked for a long time.
Yeah.
But I figure, if I get paying work from someone, I'm adding them to the client list.
Yeah.
So it's probably a little more impressive looking than it probably looks a little more impressive
Mm-hmm.
than it is, but just I've been doing it for full time for almost 10 years exactly. So it's just kind of been like an accumulation of just a lot of legwork. Any like social networking avenues I could find to display work. Doing a lot of direct mail stuff, email promotion. It's just a lot of legwork.
Yeah.
Over
You
the
think you
years.
find a lot? You spend a considerable amount of time kind of putting together work for yourself? Do you therein become your own client in order to get work?
Sometimes, yeah. If it's something I'm really interested in, oftentimes I'll do a lot of like self-generated projects.
Yeah.
That I have then turned into like self-promo pieces, or even just something that I think is funny or silly that I'll just be a random idea that comes to me. That then becomes like this fun little meme that I'll
Yeah.
put on.
Gotcha. And I guess at a point, work kind of sells itself in a sense. Would you agree with
I
that
like to
statement?
think- yeah.
That judgment? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Hilary, how do you begin the process of promoting yourself? I mean, you work full time. You know, I'm sure that takes out most of your week.
Yeah.
How'd you get your, most recent like freelance clients?
A lot of the freelance work that I've actually gotten has been mainly word of mouth. As well as, like promotion on, I guess, like, social networks, or at least putting myself out there on social networks. But, immediately out of school, I had a lot of friends that were different creative backgrounds, whether it was like photography, painting, sculpture. And they had the need to promote themselves, to have a website, or have branding, have a business card. And so several of my friends, I immediately just partnered up with them, and I was just like, all right, trade some artwork with me, give me a photograph, something, and I'll put together, a site for you. And it was kind of like this trade mentality. And I've always been a big believer of, making sure that I'm helping someone out, the same way that I would hope someone would help me out if I was in a situation in need. If I needed like a portrait or something along the lines of that, and that's kind of how it's happened. So a lot of that has ended up facilitating word of mouth, and people found out about me, whether it's through a hairdresser or someone that I've worked with in the past, just having stellar reviews, and that's been pretty much the primary way I've gotten most freelance work, as well as Twitter and Dribbble, things like that.
And I guess it just, once you get to, would you say you end up having to hit a stride, and then it kind of just perpetuates itself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely been times that I've put myself out there, kind of, because I've wanted to creatively do something from a freelance standpoint. But mainly at this point, it's just like, partnering with people and working with people, and they end up promoting me as well as like I try to end up promoting them. So it's also kind of helping them out in that sense, that partnership, ends up bringing in the work and it's consistent from that point.
Gotcha. Britt, your artwork is, in a lot of awesome places. What's your process? How did you get started with self-promotion?
Yeah. So I've been painting for quite some time. It's always just been something I've enjoyed, and even back in the days before all the social networks, when it was just AIM and you'd leave up your away message, I would put links of what I was working on up in my, even back to high school, grade school, would put links of what I was working on and like the process up there. And it kind of became natural. I would share, the process of a painting. People seemed interested in, my thought process and like how a painting gets put together. So it originated, and I guess kind of built from there. It's still what I do today. I utilize social networks like Facebook or Twitter to tweet out what I'm working on. I obviously have a website. So it's more. I have a blog too, but I don't really blog. It's more just kind of like a log of work. I'm really bad at blogging, but it's more like an online gallery, for people to visit and then check out to see what else you're doing. But like Hilary mentioned, it's all word of mouth. It's all about your connections. I would say the majority of the commissions that I get and the work that I do are all either a friend of a friend, or someone who's seen my work around, someone who likes my style and wants to commission something more personal or something that matches their home. I always feel like I have it's like the 6 degrees of separation. I always feel like I have a connection with the people who commission me to do work. So
cool. So all three of you already touched on the whole idea of social networking, and since we were already discussing that with you, Britt, what online properties are you investing your time in? You just mentioned how you don't really like to do the whole blogging thing. Maybe it hasn't been successful for you. What are some specific examples of what do you use? Twitter, Instagram? Like, how's your Friendster doing?
What?
I'll tell you what Friendster
Am I
is
supposed to
later.
have-
I'll tell you what Friendster is later. It's very old.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, I use Twitter and Facebook just for my personal use, and then my art just naturally gets woven into that. I guess it's not meant to be. It is and it isn't a self-promoting tactic. I would do it anyways if I wasn't an artist. I just happen to also talk about art on there. Art specifically, I use Society 6, which is a website that Mario uses as well that hosts, you put your files on there, and then they take care of all the ordering and printing and shipping, etc. of prints and pillows and all, rugs, all sorts of cool things. And you can shower curtains. You can connect with
That
other
could get
people
weird
on
real
there.
quick.
Yeah. I use Etsy. What else? I feel like I've tried and then failed at maintaining other social. You can only do so many.
Yeah.
Like I have a Pinterest page. I don't really post to it, but
You're not pitting your own artwork all day.
no, I used to, and then
Yeah.
I just stopped. So
Isn't that a no? I'm not a
Yeah.
Pinterest
Like
guy.
I'm not a Pinterest person either. I
Yeah.
don't do Pinterest.
But you're not just supposed to
No,
do
yeah.
your own
I
stuff.
have
I've-
no Pinterest interest.
Ah,
Oh,
sure.
nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
To Josh Carter.
Thank you, Josh. No, I agree with you though. I mean, I have 2 pins. I think the one is something Star Trek related because I liked it. The other, I think I created. I didn't repin it from anybody else, but I just made a thing about how much I thought Pinterest sucked, 4 years ago. And those are my only 2 pins, so no one add me on there.
I'm gonna repin that.
Yeah,
So
it's not like I'll pop up in your feed since
Yeah.
it's there's cobwebs. I should pin cobwebs.
yeah.
But anyhow, okay. So Society 6, Etsy, and what else? Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, kind of the heavy hitters these days.
Yeah, I don't really use Instagram. Feel like I should. I just don't. I can only give
I
myself
think
to
you just
so
started following me
to
after 5 years the
yeah.
other day.
I can only give myself
I'm
to
really
so many
upset by that.
networks. Otherwise, I'm just gonna do a bad job at all of them.
Gotcha.
I have Flickr, but again, it's kind of just like a repository at
Just
this
a
point.
thing,
I don't
yeah.
actively update it.
Instagram is kind of irritating though, because if you're working digitally, I've never known a better way to do it other than put an image in my Dropbox, download it on my phone, and then put it in my camera roll. And it's this 10-step process to
Yeah.
put something on Instagram. So
If
I don't really.
you're
use
already
it.
working digitally, yeah. Is it worth it though? If you are, say you're working on something digital, you're working on, you're doing your work digitally. Is it worth it to go through that 3-step process to get yourself to Instagram, only to push it to Facebook anyhow? Right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. There's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many
Well,
avenues that it's
What platforms do you prefer? I think you mentioned social networking as well.
me.
Yeah.
I brought my cheat sheet because I
Okay.
knew I would forget some.
Prepared.
So,
He's a
here
listener.
it is.
Share.
Oh, whoops. So, this is to plug my class later, by the way. So if I do something I really like, I'll put it on my website. I might put it on my blog, which is associated with the website. That's only if there's an interesting process shots or an interesting story or something. Usually I'm kind of like Britt. I don't really blog that much.
Okay.
Facebook, if I'm really avid, now that Facebook started curbing the people that see your posts and pages, I'll put it on my profile page too. Saturation is the key. Twitter, Dribbble, Behance, Etsy, Society 6, if it's something that's appropriate for if it's a print or a pattern that I've done. Illustration Mundo, sometimes I use that.
What
LinkedIn,
is that?
and it's
I've never.
illustrators. It's just an illustration
Wow.
specific.
Okay.
You could just put little news bits.
Is it
on there.
is it a social network? Because Society 6 isn't so much, for example, Society 6 and Etsy aren't social networks per se, but what's Illustration Mundo?
Not that many people use it. As the name suggests. You could put little news snippets with a link, but there's really no commenting or anything.
Okay.
So it's you have to be a real
I'll have to
big
check it out.
nerd to
Is
go.
that just illustrationmundo.com?
Illustration Mundo.
Okay.
Dot Oh, I think, yeah.
About the Society 6 thing, have either of you had felt like you've had a lot of success with Society 6? Because I've been trying to figure out if I should get one. I'm kind of debating. I don't know. Because
You
it's
probably
like,
had more
hey,
than I, 'cause-
somebody bought something today.
Yeah. So I'll just be honest.
I guess let's explain what Society 6 is, though.
Yeah,
for the
so
uninformed.
Society 6 is a platform where you can upload a high-res image or file, and then they will turn that into a variety of different products that they sell and facilitate the sale of. So they have stretch canvases, prints, framed prints, pillows,
shower
curtains, rugs, anything you can, iPhone cases, laptop cases, a variety of things. And all you really do is upload the image, put a description, and then they host your page. They facilitate the sale transaction, the printing, the shipping, everything really for you. And the reason I started doing it is because I started getting a lot of requests for prints, and just with working full time and running and life and the variety of other things, I really couldn't be spending a lot of extra time making prints and then either shipping them or dropping them off to people, because it wasn't enough of a return to where I felt like felt like it took a lot to do it and I wasn't getting a lot back. So I uploaded all my images to Society 6, and now if someone wants a print, I can just send them the link and say, here, have a print. I would much rather spend my time doing painting commissions or
I think my favorite
things.
part of the whole concept is it prints on demand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're
That's
not
another huge
you're not exhausting inventory space.
Absolutely.
And, ordering 100 units at one time and waiting for that money to hopefully come back one day. So if you guys are into selling prints and other collateral shower curtains with your artwork on it, perhaps. See, I was thinking about it for some of my photos. Your artwork would make sense as a shower curtain, but some of my photos would not make sense unless
Maybe it's
maybe I should just order one and it'll just be like my cats everywhere.
That'd be great.
Cats are really
So that's
hot
pretty
right
cool.
now.
Yeah.
Etsy, I mean, some people are very successful on there. Do you have a lot of stuff on there currently? Do you think Etsy seems to me as one of those websites that has a really strong community behind it, and there's a lot of support there. Would you say that's still pretty much the case?
Yeah. So all of my available work is available on Etsy. I put it up there because I was, it was getting, when people were requesting work for me, it was taking a lot to send them a price list and send them images, and so now I can just send them a link and say, here, it's all available on Etsy. You can click an order. It's all right there.
Do you just put original work on there, or do you do print? Do you do some of your own printing on there too?
It's all original work. I actually just sold my first item today. It was a $4 magnet. So
A $4 magnet?
Yeah, so
on Etsy?
Yeah.
Was it something that you had originally gotten from Society 6 anyway? Like
No.
they made the magnet? No?
No.
Where'd you get the magnet made?
Vistaprint. Vistaprint?
Okay,
Yeah.
so just like one of those online
Yeah.
retailers.
They were
Okay.
promotional magnets, and I had some extra ones, so I put them up on Etsy, and it sells.
Put my personal stuff on Etsy.
Just like
I don't know.
Your-
This couch I don't want
your vintage
anymore,
goods on
and I
Etsy.
don't feel like dealing with Craigslist weirdos.
yeah,
It's couture.
You can do that.
Etsy, tag it, vintage, IKEA, 2011.
Yeah.
But what about you, Hilary? Are you selling anything?
I am not. I have a ridiculous amount of prints stored up that I do plan on opening some sort of online shop or something like that to sell. I have a lot of requests for prints of work that I'm doing, but that's definitely like an area that I haven't dabbled in yet. Like it's kind of, that's like a little overwhelming to me. Like I really love producing work and having people enjoy it, and then to kind of cross that threshold of like all of a sudden my work being in demand from just like a personal standpoint it is kind of, it's a little fearful for me. So I do have a bunch of stuff that I actually have lined up to get printed for the purposes of selling. but I haven't crossed into that yet.
Yeah.
I just started a Squarespace site, and one of the main reasons behind that was because they have the whole e-commerce feature available with the platform. So I definitely plan on opening a shop soon.
Yeah. From the perspective of a web developer, all the e-com nonsense has always been like the point where I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Like,
You know,
I'm good. Taxes, what?
it gets complicated. It's like databases. Yeah, no.
You mean like actually coding, like if
Yeah,
somebody
like
asks
from a
you
development
for-
perspective, you know. So for people who don't know, Squarespace is a really good DIY website thing. I'd probably even use them because I make websites all day. I don't, don't want to do it anymore now. No, when I get home. So you're still on the standpoint of, I guess, how do I explain this? You're still doing kind of like freelance on a contractual basis. Maybe
Yes.
you haven't productized your work. Your work doesn't consist of productizing, but being familiar with your work,
Yeah.
probably could just do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have in a certain sense. So, I think one of the cases where I have sold work and put my work out there to be purchased is Masthead Studio over in Northern Liberties. Was doing a lot of gallery shows, and I was being asked to be part of those shows. So there would be a specific theme, whether it's a monster show, Vice's show. There was a bunch of different shows that I was a part of, and basically it was not necessarily open enrollment, but the gallery owner, Sean Hillman, would reach out to you, tell you what the theme was, and was basically like, here's the deadline, produce work, and we're gonna have a show for it. And that was actually the first time that I really started just kind of doing personal work, that all of a sudden I started realizing the benefit of it was that people were liking that work and then reaching out to me for that work. I was never an illustrator. I wouldn't necessarily categorize myself as an illustrator, but I started kind of just like doing just digital doodles, like just kind of like random little illustrations, and I started doing those for these gallery shows, and was really enjoying it. And then the prints were selling a lot, and it was one of those things that I just never put two and two together, that like, oh, I'm gonna make a doodle of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and people are gonna want to buy that and hang that on their wall, or do a print of Vices, which is my Vices. I have a foul mouth, so I tend to curse a lot sometimes. I'm not going to do it for the show, but so I did a print all about that, and it was my first print that I ever did a series of that sold out. And
That's awesome.
I still get emails about if I'm ever going to reprint it so that people can still buy it.
What you could do? Sign up for a print-on-demand service.
Yeah. Society 6 is looking real good right now.
But you'll be able to hear about, how to do that from some podcast
Yeah.
in the future in like a week, right, Josh?
Yeah, see, I'm
Yeah, we'll
even
see.
learning a lot from
Being
this,
here. So
even though I haven't sold my work, and I don't have a platform to sell my work, I have been, kind of dabbling in that area. I just need to kind of take that next step to kind of get the stuff up there online so that it's accessible to people.
Gotcha. Okay. So you had never really, your background, you wouldn't necessarily consider yourself an illustrator, and that's not necessarily your background, but you kind of fell into the whole doing gallery work, right? I mean, what's your takeaway from that? Do you have any of your pieces that have been in the gallery or the exhibition actually sold, or has it just been more of a collateral thing? You end up generating work from having your work, literally in front of people. That's like 5 questions in one.
It really
so
is. I'm like, where to
good
start?
luck.
I mean, the first show I was ever part of, just did a design, wasn't for sale. Kept doing shows because people, were kind of like, oh, we're doing another show. Like, do you want to be involved again? So it progressed, and then all of a sudden, the more that I was in shows, and the more passionate I got about it, and it became this kind of like fun exercise. Like, for a long time, I was doing websites all day, or I was doing, billboards or things like that. And the illustration stuff in these gallery shows became kind of like, just like a personal kind of like relief of just like expression. Like, similar to like with you doing painting, Britt, like it was just like one of those things where it was like, I enjoyed it. It was like my personal thing that I enjoyed, like that was an expression. But then all of a sudden people started appreciating it and wanting to buy it, and then and it's actually led to me actually getting freelance jobs from it. So I'm not sure if that answers all 5 questions. Exactly.
I'm trying to remember all 5 questions now, but that was good. That was a good response.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was one of those things that it started kind of as fun, and then I started slowly kind of getting recognized for it, and people, when people are posting pictures to Instagram or like whatever of like my print hanging in their house, there's like kind of like this like little like, oh, like that's me. And it's fun because those projects tend to be very personal. I do them because I like them, and I do them because they're fun, but other people are enjoying it too, which is kind of nice.
Awesome. So you do a lot of gallery stuff as well, Britt. I mean, and a lot of shows. In fact, you're represented by the gallery next door. Actually, okay, first question before I combine like 5 of them again. What does being represented by Bluestone Fine Art Gallery mean?
So it means that they feature me on their website. I'm included in their portfolio of work when they show, when they have clients come in for private showings, or if they have, say, an office space approaches them and says, we need art for our entire office. Do you have artists for that? And I would be included in that, the book of work that they would present to them. I've had shows there before. That's essentially it.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I'm very much not, I don't get fine art at all. Well, I mean, I do get fine art. I enjoy art. I like art. I don't do it at all. I've been a designer. I've been a developer. I dabble with photography as I hear shutters clicking. But fine art is one thing that I just don't comprehend, I guess. And you could probably say the same about design. Like you don't necessarily. What do you do when, say, people approach you and want to talk design, more on the design end of the spectrum than fine art?
I mean, if they're coming to me and asking for a design-esque commission, I'm pretty forward and say I don't do that type of work. I might refer them to another contact. I just don't do it.
I guess that's not to say though that your stuff doesn't end up getting turned into products, as we learned from, am I saying that right? Toy shirt
chocolates.
I butchered it.
Yeah. That's okay. It's tricky. It's Swiss.
So how'd that happen?
How did that happen? So long ago. So a friend of a friend, her dad owns, or I guess runs, the Toy Shirt Chocolates in the Bellevue. So this was several years ago, but I'm pretty sure she got wind of me through her friend, or I think maybe we've been connected on social networks before that. But so they have a specialty truffle box that they sell in the shop that has an artistic picture of Zurich on the front of it, because the headquarters is based in Switzerland. And she thought, that doesn't really resonate with anyone here in Philadelphia. Wouldn't it be cool if we had an artistic picture of Philadelphia on the front of it? So she got in touch with me and said, we'd love to use one of your skylines to highlight on the box. I said, okay. We worked out a licensing deal, and it's been running ever since, probably for 3 or 4 years now. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So you're on your way to retirement, essentially. Yeah, on chocolates? No?
It's a small licensing deal. But it's cool. My website's on every box of those chocolates. And,
so
it's good.
Forrest Gump reference, right? Yeah.
Do you just give out boxes of chocolates as your business card?
No, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Probably get a lot
if
more
you said
work.
yes, I'd be like, where's my box of chocolates?
Yeah, it's really good chocolate.
It's actually really cool. I've been to, so chocolate place, this company whose name I can't say.
Toy Shirt.
I've been in Toy Shirts in other cities, and I'm like, Britt's art. That is really weird. It's a weird experience. A cool one, and it's really awesome. So this has been the conversation a little bit. What are you guys' thoughts on self-promotion versus shameless bragging or humble bragging? Mario, like, is there a line? Are you a braggart? Would you consider yourself one?
I guess a little. I think like you have to be a little bit, like,
Yeah.
because anytime you do something, and you're like, hey, check out this cool thing I did.
Check out my latest
A
illustration.
little
It's
bit
a
of you.
trumpet.
Yeah, sure. A little bit of you wants to like. It's somewhere in there. It's thinking like, people are gonna think this is so awesome.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I think you have to have that in you a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like an egotist or something. But
Yeah.
I think it's it's not really bragging. Like I think there's a certain element of like people that care about like if I post something on Facebook or Twitter, the only people that are going to see that are people who have chosen to say, to follow me, to say that like I'm interested to see what you're doing. So, in that sense, it's not really bragging. It's just kind of like, I'm letting you know that this is what I've been up to.
Yeah,
but,
it's kind of
just a little bit. Of
update, a little bit of bragging. Okay.
That sounds
Yeah.
really bad.
Hilary, you strike me as pretty humble. What do you?
I'm one of those people where it's like when I put my stuff out there, I probably think about it way too long. I like sit there for like an hour to craft 140 characters, and I'm like, how am I gonna say this? Is this too braggy? Is this too like I struggle with that because like I don't want to come off as that type of person, but at the same time, being a creative, and being an artist, we're producing work to be seen. So like there's a sense of pride that should go behind the work that you're producing, that you should be able to put it out there to be seen, to get feedback, to have people appreciate it. But it is one of those like weird things when it's like you put it out there in the internets, like for everybody to see. It's kind of like, or am I like, yeah, it doesn't feel like bragging. But so it's kind of like this weird feeling about it. I tend, on the social networks that I use, I tend to be very aware of what platform I'm using to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So Twitter, I'll talk about work that I'm doing on Twitter. Dribbble is purely for that, so I will use Dribbble for that. Tumblr, I will occasionally post my work, but it's only stuff that, maybe that I'm like super psyched about that I'll put out there on there. Instagram, I rarely will ever put stuff out there unless it's.
Oh really? You won't put work on Instagram typically?
I mean, I do, but I don't. It's few and far between. Like I did when I picked up the first copy of the grid illustration that I did.
Gotcha.
I posted a photo of the fact that it was printed and it was on the stands and I was excited about it. It really depends. Like I guess it's like based off like my mood. Like,
Yeah.
On Instagram.
But it sounds like you have at least a pretty refined understanding of what medium you're choosing
Yes.
when crafting your message.
Yep.
What kind of advice would you give to someone who's very shy? That's actually one thing. Someone came to me earlier and was like, oh, can't make it tonight, but it seems like a cool thing. So, and they described themselves as very shy.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice would you give that person? Just consider not knowing what they do. Say they do what you do, or
Yeah.
do what Mario or Britt does. What kind of advice would you give them?
Criticism's always going to be hard. There's no way to get around criticism, and putting yourself out there is a terrifying thing. But at the same time, I think the biggest takeaway from it is that when you do put yourself out there, you're exposing yourself to learning a lot more about yourself and your craft. So it's scary, and it takes. At 32, who's been in the someone who's been in the industry for 10 years, I still get nervous about putting myself out there. I still get concerned about what people are going to think of the work that I'm doing. Is it good enough? Is it up to the standard? everybody's standard's different. Everybody's going to perceive your work differently. There's going to be lovers, there's going to be haters, there's going to be admirers, there's going to be people who don't really care that much. But you're only going to learn more about yourself when you put your work out there and open yourself to having those conversations with people. So I just think it's a tough thing to do. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But the takeaway from it, there's a payoff.
Okay. So it's essentially a game of risk and reward for you.
Yeah.
A couple things you said touched on the idea of like expectation.
Can I just add to the
Yeah, go ahead.
shy thing?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that, like,
Were you like super shy one time?
growing up was
Yeah.
pretty shy, but I think like promoting online is actually really conducive to getting your work out there when you're really shy, because like
Yeah.
you don't have to sit face to face and have somebody look through a portfolio
Mhm.
like the art directors used to do, or like
You're not standing like next to your artwork at the gallery. You're
yeah,
like,
there's a disconnect there, and it's like
here's my stuff. I'm gonna walk away now. Yeah.
So I think it's great. There's all these avenues out there where you're kind of removed from it. You're putting your stuff out there, but and internet commenters can be the worst people on the planet.
Of course.
but-
I'm one of those terrible people. Depends on what, not
Are
about
you?
art. On your artwork
Are you a
specifically.
Flea.com commenter?
I am.
Oh my gosh.
I am. No, I'm not. Those are the worst people. I don't even want to go down that sidetrack. But well, I think actually so we found out what Britt thinks of Instagram. Hilary, Mario, do you use Instagram? Are you an Instagram user?
Not a whole lot. I like
That is-
sporadically.
That blows my mind right now. That fascinates me. I mean, that surprises me because you're all you guys do different work. Two things that you guys have in common: you do work that's visual, and it's design or art oriented. And all three of you aren't really big on the Instagrams.
I don't know.
Like,
I'm
some-
huge
some
on
of
it.
that.
I just don't.
You're
go
huge
out.
on it, but not
I-
about your work though.
Yes, but I post a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
like I am very aware of. I've actually, if there's any social network I feel like that I am the most active on, it's actually Instagram.
I'm getting there as well. It's like definitely up there for
Yeah.
me. One thing that's been like killing me lately. Any of you guys follow Jinxed, the store on Instagram?
I love Jinxed.
What the hell? So Jinxed, it's a store. They sell old stuff,
Furniture,
vintage
stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
furniture, tchotchkes.
Half my house.
You
is
know,
Jinxed.
you could even find like old magazines and postcards. I bought a 100-year-old map of Europe from there.
I got a really cool fish poster.
You
Not
got that one?
Not
No.
the band, but it's like actually.
Oh, it's just an actual
Just
fish.
a fish.
I was thinking like an old,
Man.
but Jinx would also have like the old concert posters and
Yeah.
stuff like that. They have the randomest stuff in the world, and it's always really awesome. And they sell it for so cheap.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. They're cheap. It's crazy.
They should probably sponsor a podcast that loves them. But
yeah.
so they have like multiple locations. They're a great local business.
Yeah.
And we just furnished like our entire living room. We got like this mid-century end table, 2 matching end tables, and a coffee table for $60. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I kid you not. So they have this. The other day they had this awesome dresser, this enormous mid-century dresser.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
They sold it for like I don't know, maybe
$10.
$100, maybe,
Yeah, yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Another local business is selling the same exact vintage dresser for 3-4 times as much.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. Now, to get back to the point, they're doing all of this on Instagram,
Yeah.
and they're pushing it out, and I'm like, and it's. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like this race. Like every time they'll post it with the
Yeah.
price, the physical location they have it at, and a phone number. And most times I've called and been like, yes, I would just buy it over the phone, give them my credit card. They should just save my credit card info. But yeah, they've been ruining me lately. So it's not necessarily self-promotion, but promotion on Instagram does exist, and at least I've identified them to be a business that's doing it very well.
I think Instagram offers a unique outlet for people who are uploading digital pieces, because you have the opportunity to make it look like nothing else that's on Instagram. It won't have an Instagram filter or something. You can do whatever you want. It's a square. Yeah. I've been doing it.
Yeah,
A little bit.
square format is interesting.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So, I guess back to like online commenters and stuff like that. Have any of you had a particularly bad experience or a very specific, like really good one you'd like to talk about? They all look at each other like, no, I've never had anything good happen to me. I don't know anything. I don't even know why I'm sitting up here. Britt, you've had some good experiences online.
Yeah, I've for the majority, I've only had really great experiences online. I don't feel like I've ever had nasty.
I'm gonna start
commenters.
commenting on your stuff
Well,
now.
I don't know. I mean, for the most part, I guess I post the majority of my work on Twitter and Facebook. At least like through the process and then the final piece. And the people that I interact with on there, I also interact with on a personal level, on a friendly level, and I don't feel like they're the kind of people who are just gonna come right out and say like, that's awful, or I wish you'd used blue instead of red. I don't even know. But yeah, I don't know. It's been mostly good. I feel like a lot of people will either be like, wow, I really like that. That's really cool. I would like, I want that in my house. And if they don't like it, I guess they just keep their mouth shut. Which is, it's cool.
That is completely, what I wouldn't expect from the internet.
Yeah.
But I guess you have the right people following your stuff. And some of the things you were saying kind of reminded me of the same topic, or along the same lines that Hilary was saying. Where, are you actively like planning what you do online? Question one. Question two, does expectation meet reality? You put stuff out there, it's like, oh, people are going to love this, and I'm going to sell it for $10,000 because they'll pay it. Does that happen? Do you plan, and does expectation meet reality?
Okay, so do I plan? No, not really, except when you mentioned buffer to me. So buffer is something that you can, how would you even describe that? It's like a
Tweet scheduling, essentially.
Hootsuite
It's like Hootsuite
type of thing.
lead management thing.
So you had first mentioned that to me, and I was like, oh, cool, I should totally do this. So I planned 10 days ahead, and I set up all my little promotional tweets to send out. And I think I did that for maybe 2 weeks or maybe a month. And then I just stopped.
Yeah.
Now I just haven't.
Wasn't
I don't
into
know.
the whole scheduling of stuff.
Yeah. No. I mean, there was nothing bad about it. I just...
Yeah, you're
I
more
don't
off
know.
the cuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More more organic, just as it's happening.
That's exactly. I would completely agree.
Yeah.
So, for a guy who schedules all of his tweets a year in advance, everything he's ever said online, and then just does what he's already scheduled on Twitter, it's fascinating how it is. But no. I mean, I would agree. There is a lot to be said about just doing it organically and taking pictures of what you're doing in the moment.
Yeah.
Mario, any interesting online stuff you'd like to point out? Also, I guess same question for you. Do you plan what you do in a? Do you have a strategy? Is it more organic? And where's the alignment or misalignment of expectation versus reality?
I mentioned before I do a lot of stuff that's like, I think it's going to be kind of like meme worthy, and it might kind of get picked up and go a little viral or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's often times where I'll be like, this is so funny. I did this image that was like 2 pieces of bread, and it said, "You're the loaf of my life."
Yeah.
I was like, that's cute. I did it around Valentine's Day, and nobody thought it was fun. Nobody said anything about it. I had it as a print on Etsy. I was like, oh man,
You're like, I have 10,000 of these sitting in my garage, these prints, and no one's. What the loaf?
I was like, oh, nice. I asked my wife. I was like, this is funny, right? This is.
Did she agree? Disagree?
She thought it was funny. Yeah. Apparently, other people.
And that's
didn't
why you
think it was
married
funny.
her. So, is she the loaf of your life?
She's the love of my life. She doesn't like when I say that though. It's
No.
not very endearing.
I would do that. I'm going to say that now. While I'm just hanging out on the couch, doing nothing. I'm the loaf of your life. Check this out. Taco shirt, and everything. But Hilary,
sometimes that happens.
Yeah. Anything? I mean, so I already got an idea that you're pretty strategic when it comes to at least your work, right?
I guess I'm strategic about what platforms I'm using to
Okay.
do specific things.
And in terms of expectation and reality, it sounds like you also have had a generally favorable response from putting your work out there. Would you agree to that statement?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. I mean, if I'm forgetting about a negative situation that's happened,
Yeah.
then that's probably for the better. But I can't think of any backlash or any negative situations, and I've nothing. Putting my work out there and kind of whether it's putting it on Dribbble or putting it elsewhere, I've gotten nothing but positive feedback, positive response. Definitely, have had people contact me and ask me about doing work for them and everything because of that. So I feel like using specific platforms has been nothing but beneficial so far.
Gotcha. Let's talk about Dribbble a little bit more. I remember for the longest time when I was still like more of a hybrid designer developer, I wanted a Dribbble invite so bad because above designer developer, I'm just a nerd and early adopter. And I really wanted in that. But then I got an invite and I never posted anything because I'm awesome.
Yeah. Coveted invite.
So I'm not good at self-promotion, which is why I'm just asking you guys all the questions. But what would you say about Dribbble? Can you let us know what it's about for people who don't know? And then we'll take it from there.
So, based on my understanding, so this could be wrong, but Dribbble was a platform that was essentially created. Initially, it was closed to the public. You had to get an invite to be allowed to post to it and to have an account. And what it was really a platform to allow creative people, specifically designers and illustrators, to post their work in progress to a community of like-minded people to receive feedback and to kind of promote conversation about the work that they were doing.
I'm sorry. Can you speak up a little bit for the people in there.
Also, I've had AC.
Yeah,
in my-
we're bad
Sorry.
air
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So it's a platform that basically allows a creative person to receive feedback from the community of people that they're posting it to. I forget who I received my invite from, but I remember I received my invite. The thing that's kind of baffling about Dribbble is I feel like half the time it is work in progress. The other half of the time it's probably people that are carefully cropping and crafting and making sure that the post looks amazing before they put it up there, which kind of defeats the purpose. But at the same time, they're putting the work up there because they want people to be impressed with it. They want to get the hearts. They want to get the likes.
The likes, basically.
They want to get those little, ding, someone loves it. Hey. So that's kind of essentially what it's been. It's become a area where people are sharing their work, whether it's finished work or it's in progress work, to a community of people that can appreciate the work, who are in the same industry or the same area of field as them. Get support, get feedback, but the recent trend that I've noticed is a lot more people are using it as portfolios. To use it as a way to kind of put themselves out there and say, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm doing, this is my skill set. And there's been a couple times that I've had people send me their Dribbble pages instead of like a personal website to essentially see their portfolio.
I've been noticing that a lot lately too.
Which is interesting.
If you're applying for things, I've seen Dribbble as the method for your application. You just authenticate through Dribbble. And also for developers, it's GitHub. It's like those two have become where you show your work. And GitHub was also this, same idea. It wasn't essentially built for that purpose, but it's become that.
Yeah.
What's the community look like? Would it make sense for someone of a print traditional or illustration or fine art background? Would you recommend it to people like Mario and Britt, or is it more geared toward interactive web design people?
Oh, that's a tough one. I personally would like to say that I think it's open to illustrators, designers, interactive designers. I haven't seen a lot of fine art on it. A lot of icon work, a lot of, it's now they have the whole animated GIFs so that you can show animation. So you're getting a lot of user experience.
Wait, it supports GIFs?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm totally gonna start using my account then.
Yeah. So now it supports I think it's really really geared towards creatives that are producing, whether it's in a digital kind of like website and logo area, but also illustration as well. I don't think one over the other gets more likes or more, I guess followings in the community. I think it really just has to do with your talent, your skill set.
Gotcha.
Is it still invite only, or?
I think it is. I think you can sign up as a prospect, and then you can start following people that you appreciate or that you think are like kind of inspiring people. But I'm not sure what happens when you become a prospect and like how you get that official.
Wow, I feel especially bad for having a dormant account now. But I really don't do much.
You have like the
design.
golden
You're
ticket and like
It's all these
I know.
prospects that
Sell
are
it,
like-
right?
Invite.
Yeah. You not have one?
I was really anti-Dribbble for a long time because I felt like it was like a trap. Like everything is gonna look the same in this community of people who all make similar stuff. It didn't seem progressive to me, but I just signed up for an account as a prospect because I think it's a good thermometer on the design community. So I'm available. Somebody give me an invite. I'm ready to put up a picture.
All right. I'm gonna have to log in and see if I can send invites out. Okay. So to once again kind of shift things, Hilary. So you're very experienced when it comes to branding things, creating brands. In this whole process of doing your freelance work and independent work, what would you say about your personal brand? Does a personal brand exist? Let's hear about that.
oh god, that's a tough one. So I mean, I guess yes, I have a personal brand. I have a logo. I have a name that I go by, which is Au revoir, not AU but OH, which a lot of people are very curious how that kind of came about. I couldn't tell you the exact rationale behind it because it was so many years ago. But I think my brand, even though I have a logo and I have kind of like this identity that I go by, I think my brand essentially is the work that I'm putting out there. So people are beginning to know me and who I am as a designer based off the work that I'm putting out there. People know me more for the freelance work and the work that I do put on, social networks, more so than the work that I'm doing at an agency. So I feel like, that's kind of changed and morphed over the years. The more freelance work that I've gotten, that's been, icon focused or brand focused or web focused. I'm more recognized for that type of work than anything.
Right. Plus, agency work, you can or cannot talk about it depending where it is. If you're working on pre-sale stuff, then you can't really share that at all anyway. Like in my time as a designer, I spent a lot of time working on stuff that never saw the light of day. So my portfolio looks awesome now. But Britt, you know all about personal brand and all that stuff from your day job experience. What would you say in regards to forming one, creating one, maintaining one, and how does it? Here's a twist on it. How does it differentiate? Or where's the separation between your personal brand and you?
So for me, I don't know if there's much separation at all between the personal brand, if there even is one, and just myself. As far as like painting branding mechanisms, I have a website, obviously I have social networks, I have business cards, I have promotional cards, magnets, various other my swag, however, tchotchkes. So yeah, I have all that, and I think, like Hilary said, my work definitely has its own style, its own brand, if you will. People will see it around and say like, hey, that kind of looks like yours, and then I'll get a text like, is this yours? And it is. So I think, that's working well. I don't know.
Your work becomes Well, you become your work becomes you. In a
Yeah,
sense.
it's all mushed into
Yeah,
one.
okay.
Especially since I use the channels that I promote in, I also just use them for my own personal.
What channels? I mean, get the rehash like Twitter and Facebook
Yeah,
essentially. Okay.
yeah. So it's all looped in together.
Just,
I
just as a
actually,
reminder, if you guys are tweeting, there's these little cards on the
Yeah.
back of chairs with all of our Twitter handles and whatnot, so you can see
yeah.
what's going on there.
And at one point, like a few years ago, I mean, I actually tried to like differentiate. Okay, like this is going to be Britt Miller Art Facebook page, and this is my personal Facebook page. And I also thought like, okay, I'll separate it out and make an art Twitter, and then I'll make obviously my regular Twitter. But it became too difficult to maintain both of them. The painting Facebook page was pretty much the same people were following
Yeah.
it as were my friends, so I didn't want to post to them twice, and so it just became difficult to maintain several channels, so it's all wrapped up into one. Just
Mario, any similarities, differences between the way Britt treats her personal brand? Do you have a personal brand? Have you branded yourself? You are experienced in the field. What would you say about that?
I try to brand my. I have a logo. I have a mark that I put on everything, and I think so much of what I would call brand is dictated by just the way that I draw. As an illustrator, I think a lot of people are that way. It's just kind of the way you naturally make an image.
So you too, people know it's you through your work, your distinctive style.
Right. Yeah. But I think that said, I like to think having a design background, I try to come at illustration projects from a designer standpoint sometimes, where I try to adapt for the assignment as best I can.
Okay.
So, I think sometimes I just try to roll with it depending on the work that I'm getting.
Yeah.
And that sort of dictates the way the work looks sometimes.
Gotcha. So, same question. Is there a Mario the illustrator, Mario the non-illustrator, Mario the teacher, or is it
I don't really-
all blur together?
Yeah, I think they're all kind of one
Okay.
and the same.
Hilary, I guess that would be the last tidbit. Is there, I know you have like this consistent naming convention, you already mentioned a logo. Is there like a delineation?
It was one of those things that, like, out of school, like, I felt like it was something to kind of do and to kind of like brand myself. It was like a brand, and it just ended up sticking, and I kept with it. And at a certain point, it was one of those things like, do I abandon this or do I stay with it? And I felt like at that point I had built so much into it that I stuck with it.
There is no separation.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess like the only time it ever becomes a struggle is like, if I did an illustration for Lost Type, and I was like, do I put Hilary Sedgwick or do I put my, like my Twitter name and things like that? And like that was the only time it really ever became a struggle.
Gotcha.
But I think,
You mean do you maintain other accounts for your au revoir stuff, or is it all Hilary?
I mean, everything.
Or there's no difference?
There's no difference. I mean, every single account that I have, anytime that I'm opening up a social platform or signing up for something, because you can get the Facebook logins now and like all those things. It's it's usually au revoir, and then it's just my name associated with it. So I think it's essentially one and the same.
Makes
I mean,
sense.
what I'm putting out there is me. So
Yeah, this is actually something I can speak to, despite the fact that I'm not any kind of designer or artist. But Britt touched on a lot of topics. Like, I just have a ton of social media fatigue. I've tweeted at least 30 times without taking my phone out of my pocket during the course of this podcast. No, but I completely agree. So I go by Mike. I go by Mikey now, and you can kind of date how long someone's known me, depending what they call me. So my full name is actually Michelangelo. There are some people in the room who would probably call me that, because why not? That was my name before. And before that, before I saw my birth certificate, I just went by Mike. Then I became Michelangelo, and because I was, young and trying to be a professional. But then,
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
that just got really exhaustive to write all the time, or type, or say. So I went by Mikey. So my Twitter handle, or actually my handle on everything, is Mikey Ill. And the only reason that happened, a little secret, is because my previous handle for things was just Illigan. You know, spell that, you'll all get it wrong. So I became Mikey Ill one day about 5 years ago. And now everything is Mikey Ill, down to like Xbox and PC, all gaming properties. And then I'm like, I don't want some weird internet weirdo knowing my name is Mikey, and then they'll shout that into my headset. I don't even care anymore. But once again, you know, I do other things, like I write and I do photography, and I used to go by Michelangelo in those cases so people actually know my full name. Scale all that up. There was even situations where I would try to like separate my accounts for different things. Like I had one where I just would write really weird jokes. I'm not even gonna tell people what that is. But now I just do it from my main account because why the hell not? Like
Yeah.
who cares anymore?
Yeah.
Very interesting. So, to an effect, you guys say there's a personal brand, and even I agree that there is no separation between the personal brand between you and the personal brand. They're pretty much the same. So does personal brand, is that even a thing? Is it still a thing? Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't know?
Is it a nice buzzword? Is it something legit? You know, I don't know.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
acceptable. I don't know is an acceptable answer.
Is it? Okay.
Mario?
Um,
What's your take
yeah, I
on it?
think, like I said, it's from an illustration standpoint. It's so much just about the way I naturally want to draw something. You know,
Mhm.
to me, that's the only thing that really defines
Yeah.
what my.
But you could also
personal
call that
brand-
your style, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, or your voice or whatever, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it. But I think a lot of that is just a natural progression of like I said, the way you make a picture, the way you draw. Do you work in line? Do you work in color? Do you work digital? You know, like I think that's all kind of all encompassing.
It's just your work, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've never really differentiated or thought about establishing myself as a brand. If anything, I've actually gone the opposite direction. When I came out of school, thinking like, I came out of school with a portfolio of all scratchboard work.
Yeah.
Anyone's ever used scratchboard? It's the most tedious,
Don't even know
awful
what that
thing
is.
in the world.
Wait, I do. Yes, now that you
It starts as a blackboard, and when I used to use just an X-Acto knife, and where you draw it scrapes away the black and it's white underneath. It was a really labor-intensive process, and I just had this whole portfolio of that. And for the longest time, I was so confused by what it meant to have a style or a brand, because my style was kind of dictated by the medium I was using. Like I was a scratchboard artist, so I did like woodcutty looking stuff. And as I stopped doing that and tried to branch out and get more free, if anything, I've gotten away from that idea that I have to have this established look, and I feel like I can kind of branch out now.
Yeah, I mean, you're creative. It's your natural tendency, instead of sticking to this conformed personal brand that you've dictated for yourself, because you haven't dictated one for yourself. And so, Hilary, what are your thoughts on all that?
I mean, I guess like I kind of mentioned before, my brand and who I am, I came up with an identity because, out of school as a designer, I felt like that's kind of what you're supposed to do. Like, you're a designer, you work on brands, you should make your own brand. So I felt like that's kind of like what I was supposed to do. And then, now 10 years later, I realized it's less about the actual mark and the logo and the name and just the work that I'm actually putting out there and producing. I think it all depends. I know some designers who have a brand and a look and a way about themselves that bleeds into their entire life. And I mean, like, they are a walking embodiment of who they are as a designer. And I know some people who aren't, and who update and change what their brand or identity is, every year, every couple of years. I think it's one of the things that's kind of exciting as a creative is you can always, I guess elaborate is not, it's probably not the right word for it, but you can always change. You can always grow as a creative. Your style is going to change over the years. Your techniques are going to change over the years. And I think that's what essentially is going to end up defining you, is what your craft is.
Gotcha. So, I feel like you're the one getting caught up in every time I want to like change gears. But say I was a really terrible designer. I'm not great. Or at least I thought I was a terrible designer, because every designer thinks they're terrible at some point. But I was really good with self-promotion. I'm like selling so many shower curtains on Society 6. Everyone wants to bathe in my stuff. But it's really awful looking. It's bad. No? Fine. And I'm taking my store down. You know what? I'm going to sell one to your husband. And it's going to be like some stupid drawing I made. And I know you really love like decorating and doing all that stuff. In fact, I'm going to put one in my own house. Solidarity.
Podcast going.
I have no idea. But say I was really good at self-promotion, and but I was just a terrible designer. Can I make that work? Can I make that work for me in the long run? Yes? No?
I mean, if you're very, very good at self-promotion, you're great. I mean, you're being good at something.
Yeah.
Are you selling a lot? Or are you just
Yeah.
good at, are you
I
just
don't know.
good at
Say I haven't
talking
gotten to
about
that selling point.
Yeah.
It depends.
Say I'm just
interacting.
just a really good self-promotion person, salesman. I don't know.
Would that mean that the definition of being good at self-promotion is having a lot of sales or a lot of views or
Yeah.
a lot of followers?
I guess that's what I'm looking to find out. I mean, say my innate skills at self-promotion were better than what I'm actually promoting.
I feel like if you were really good at self-promotion and you're a designer, you'd probably end up being a pretty good designer, because if people are going to go to you and then see nothing or not be impressed, why would they buy something or like you,
Yeah. Like
follow you?
things would eventually work
Yeah.
themselves out, is I guess what you're trying to say, right?
Well, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, bad design is such a subjective, or
True.
bad art at all.
Yeah.
It's such a subjective thing that everybody's tastes vary so much that if you can promote yourself well, I mean, look at Thomas Kincaid or something. You know, like he found the niche that he.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with his work. What was he?
His paintings like light up.
Oh yeah,
It's
that
It's like
guy.
in the mall.
Yeah.
literally light. I think
Yeah.
he's
Yeah, that's
actually still
weird.
paintings
I
that
would
light up.
probably buy a shower curtain of it.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Beautiful to bathe in.
That
yeah.
would be a good show.
Very
Okay.
soothing. Anyway, like, you know, so if you find that niche, that
Yeah.
like tastes are all over all
So
across the board. So
cats.
cats,
Internet
cats,
loves cats.
That's true.
calendars, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. That's like.
What do you think? What do you think, Britt?
So I think both points are really good. That tastes are really all across the board. You know, if it's something that's not exactly up your alley, it could be, you know, somebody else's. They could like it. But then also, what the point of promotion is. Like, is the point to just talk about yourself, or is the point to sell work? So I don't know. I mean, if you're, you know, if you do subpar work, or maybe work that just has, you know, a very niche market, you know, you happen to sell a lot of it, are you successful? I don't know. It's
Yeah.
a good question.
I mean,
I feel-
at that point, no one will care if you're terrible.
Yeah.
Or if some people think you're terrible.
Because you're rich.
You're still selling stuff.
I feel like it's like one of those things where, I mean, you know, especially in like the digital space and whatnot, I feel like this, like, you know, advertising and being creative and stuff's always changing and morphing, and there's a lot of cases where people who are creative people have been very, very good at self-promotion. Maybe the work hasn't been great, but all of a sudden, you know, I mean, that has led them to a career of social media and has led them into an area where they are really, really, really good at knowing how to promote brands.
Yeah,
and
or
how
host
to talk about
podcasts or
brands.
something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But like, you know, I think that's like a whole area where it opens another door, and maybe you realize, okay, like I don't want to be the person executing, but I want to maybe help come up with the ideas that promote brands. So
Yeah.
it's kind
That's a
of
good
interesting because it opens up another door.
Gotcha. Cool.
We should start Q&A soon.
We
It's
we
been
will.
an hour and 15.
Indeed, very good conversation. So with the time that we have left, there's a big crowd here too. Q&A. Who has questions for these people here? Questions are mandatory as well. So you.
I mean, if you ever done like this would be kind of old school self-promos, like send the physical object to somebody you want to work with, or like a business that you're really excited about, or you kind of like that.
Okay.
And has it brought you to success?
All right. So the question was about old school, traditional marketing in a sense.
Like people are going to like do an illustration of principle of this business is made, like send it to them.
So also, but in a sense, also maybe kind of spec work. Kind of, yeah.
I mean,
Very, very direct. I think so. All right. Was the question for anyone specifically, or okay, Mario? Let's start with you because you did mention direct marketing, and that's so I think that's related. What
Yeah.
can you say about this?
We didn't really talk about direct mail at all, but I still do postcards. I use a mailing list service called AdBase. There were two big ones for illustrators: Agency Access and AdBase. They merged a couple years ago, so now it's just like this one big database. If you're interested in direct mail, I would definitely recommend it. I used to do direct mail. You said old school. I was like really old. Like I would go to this guy. It sound really old now. To like Borders or Barnes and Noble, to the magazines. Back when they had like big
Good luck
magazines.
finding one, I guess.
Well, they used to have big section in the front of the store was magazine. I would literally like go pick up a magazine, flip through. There were like 2 illustrations in there. Go to the front, write down the address, get the art director name, go home. I had a Quark template. Or Quark. What's it called? Quark. Sorry. I had a Quark template. And
It's been so long you can't
yeah.
even remember the application.
I remember that.
And by the time I did all that, and I do a mailer of like 500 cards, like 50 would bounce back to me because that art director wasn't even there anymore. So using the mailing service is great for that because they constantly keep the database updated. I actually do my email promotions on there too. So AdBase or Agency Access is great for that.
Okay.
If I could say one more thing.
Sure. Go ahead.
I just feel like as long as you're working in print or you're promoting to people who work in print, there's always going to be a desire for a direct mail piece, to see your work actually printed. So,
Got to keep that postal service alive.
yeah, right.
All right. Does anyone else have a question? Yep, you in the back.
So I guess this is kind of going towards our generation, like the new designers, people that are coming out. Do you think it would be smart for students that are in school currently, or those that are just trying to make it out there in the world, to take a class, or maybe even, have classes about self-promotion, even if there is some? Because I know is there a difference?
I have some opinions when you guys are done about this. So, you've made a face, so you can tell me. No, just because of my future opinion, which is probably going to be shocking. No. Yeah. Oh, right. So, the question was, and if I'm understanding correctly, is it necessary to have kind of like a formalized basis for self-promotion? Okay. Well, one point I want to add. I went to art school and we did have public speaking class, which I didn't utilize for almost a decade. So, because I was in front of the computer. But okay, who wants to cover this one?
I'll plug my class.
You want to plug your class? You cover topics like getting your work out there, self-promotion.
Well, I'm hoping to teach a continuing education class at Temple this summer. It's called The Business of Illustration. I like to think it could be good for a designer too, where we'll talk about like identifying a market, targeting a market, and then how to promote yourself to that market, be it direct mail. I mentioned the mailing list service I use. I like to show students how that works, how e-blasts work, and then even just it's business practices. So it's even just like how to make an invoice. Talk a little bit about pricing, I'm gonna try to cover everything in a little free class. It's kind of like a long workshop, but if you go to tyler.temple.edu, it's actually like several links. It's hard to find. You go to continuing education, graphic and interactive design, and it's under there. So if you're interested.
You know business pretty well, Britt. I mean, you know, and you've gone to school. What can be said about, you know, a formalized course in self-promotion? Do you think something like that would be necessary? Have you had classes that are similar to this topic?
Yes and no. So, yes, I do think it would be very, very valuable. I don't know if I've had classes exactly on this point, but they've definitely been related. So my undergraduate studies were in advertising and international art, and then I got my MBA at Temple a few years ago. So I don't have a traditional art school background or anything like that, but I definitely think some classes, you know, like the one that you mentioned, would be really helpful in just how, you know, how to market yourself, how to choose a market, how to advertise, how to correspond with clients, how to invoice them, you know, what that looks like. I think that would be definitely helpful. I'm not sure if art schools already provide, you know, classes of that nature.
Well, mine didn't provide me with much, to say the least.
But I think, I mean, that's truly
It's
how
not
to set
exact-
someone up for success if they're going to succeed in, you know, in that market is, you know, obviously the creative aspect is a huge part of it, but how to work with other business people, how to work with art directors and agencies and marketing people is really important.
Yeah. Hilary, anything to add?
I think something like that would be extremely valuable because, you know, I look at the experience that I had in school, and they really didn't set you up for that at all. I mean, you know, they set you up with kind of like the skill set as to what it is to be a designer and to be a creative, but didn't really give you the tools of like, all right, once I graduate and I, you know, get that diploma, like, how do I get out there? And how do I price myself if I'm going to do freelance? How do I protect myself as creative? How do I market myself as creative, whether it's to agencies or freelance, or just like putting myself out there socially? You know, for me, it was a lot of trial by error, which, you know, you do learn a lot from that, and you're always going to learn a lot from that one. But I do think that it would be great for schools to look into giving students a skill set so that they understand how to promote themselves as a creative. I do think that's really important.
Okay. So I guess, in short, the answer is yes and no. Have you run into any courses that are specific to? I'm asking you questions now. Is there like something specific you were thinking of?
Well, I go to Philadelphia University and Seymour, but I just think it's necessary for students to understand the business aspect behind promotion. Of course, you do great work. Of course, everyone thinks it's someone somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just hard. My realistic brain shifts into, well, how much does this cost if I add up this total, and then is this even more?
Are you an art major?
No, but I just think it's really interesting.
Okay.
And I've been here.
Are you design major?
Not even.
Okay, that's why you're thinking of numbers. That's interesting.
And I'm a business major.
Yeah.
I am all about saving people.
Okay, that's
But
good.
I just would like to know, is there anyone in your guys' generation or anyone that's interested in teaching that to us? And should it?
Okay.
Obviously, kind of.
Yeah. So I guess I just want to follow up. You are neither a designer nor an artist.
No.
You're interested in self-promotion. You seem to be interested in the business aspect of everything, and that's pretty much what the answer that these guys had. So I just wanted to recap for the recording. Very fascinating. So your question was, for those of us who are already out working in the field, do you think it's something that should be established? Is that right?
Yeah, and is anybody in your guys' position thinking about the artwork that's being created and how are you supposed to do that?
Who wants to take this one?
It's a lot of stuff.
It's a loaded question.
No,
I
I'm
mean-
sorry. I didn't mean that.
I mean, I have talked with several, and I don't know if this is necessarily the right response, but I know that for myself, I've talked to several alumni that are in the same field as me. We've all felt generally the same way, that we felt like we weren't necessarily given the tools to go out there and, you know, create a career for ourselves, whether we wanted to be dependent on an agency or not, or dependent on a company. And we've thought about going back and starting a lecture series at our university to try to help students understand what it's like after college in our field.
That is, I'm still not over my transition into the real world. Like, I have to go to work every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. And that's how it's going to be for a while.
You sure about that? Oh, no. So back to the point. Did the rest of you have any opinions on establishing something very specific and you know, to this topic? I mean, Mario, are you going to go in like next class, your teacher be like, all right, and just added something to the syllabus on self-promotion? Do you think it's something that should be core?
I think so, yeah. I like to always tell the story. When I got my first job, I didn't. The art director said, submit an invoice when it was done. And I was like, sure thing. And I had to call Alice and Joe, the department, and Tyler, and be like, what's an invoice? I don't even know what that is. So they had to walk me through it. And, you know, something as simple as that, like, I think people might take it for granted that a lot of students don't get that knowledge base. So I think, Tyler, I know, has gotten a little bit better. I think they offer a business course now. I think as long as you're doing, you have a major or a focus, what am I trying to say? Like any school that offers, say, illustration or like painters, for example, as a major, where you can't necessarily, as like a designer, you could go work at an agency, or you have more opportunity to actually work full time somewhere. But I think as a fine artist or an illustrator, I think absolutely it's that much more important to get that knowledge base, because when you graduate, really the only avenue for you, if you want to work in that field, is to be on your own.
Yeah.
So, like Hilary said, I mean, for me it was a lot of trial and error, and you know, phoning up my professors to ask them what certain legal forms are and stuff.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think absolutely it's very important.
What do you think, Britt? You didn't go to school for art or
No.
design, so
Yeah, I would absolutely agree that it's essential for someone who's freelancing or is going to eventually work on their own. I mean, just think of yourself as your own one-man band, small business. So you've got to be all the parts of that business. You're the finance department. You're invoicing. You're keeping track of sales. You're doing your taxes at the end of the year. You're the legal department. You're copywriting your work to make sure it's protected. You're writing up licensing contracts to let other businesses or companies use your work. You're the delivery manager to make sure it's all done on time. You're your marketing department to get yourself out there. You're everything. So yeah, that's absolutely essential to learn, because I don't think a lot of those skills are natural.
as another veteran of art school, absolutely not. I too did not really know what an invoice was. I've sent out plenty of invoices. I'm still not sure what they are, but they have numbers that need to be different. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time.
Make sure there's a little dollar sign.
Oh yeah, dollar sign as well, depending on the currency. So one thing that I'm gathering from everybody here, it's like, fail hard, fail fast, fail often, learn. And if you're interested in learning more about, once you've done the self-promotion part, what to do next as a freelancer or an independent worker, even to a sense of, regardless of what you do, art, design, or, some sort of boring job. That was just a dig on non-creative people. But last episode, well, you are creative. So last episode we covered full-time to freelance, and we ran through that gamut. So, and all right, I think we're pretty much up on time. So, any other questions? I'm sorry, you're gonna have to ask them independently afterwards. So, this has been the season finale, episode 3 of Nightcaps, presented by AIGA Philadelphia. Thank you. Last time I said AIG like 50 times. Also, so now guess
the name of a specific former financial client. Anyway, so recorded live here at United by Blue Coffee House and Clothier in Old City. For information on future nightcap events, check out philadelphia.aiga.org, AIGA Philly on Twitter. I'm your host, Mikey Illigan. You can follow me on Twitter, Mikey Ill, and at Philadelphia. Big thanks to our guests, Hilary Sedgwick, Britt Miller, and Mario Zucca. So, for our listeners, if they wanted to learn more about you, they should already know the Twitters, but where would they go to find you online?
So you can go to brittmillerart.com. That's my main website. It has links to all of my social media properties.
Cool.
It's the best way to find me.
Mario?
Just MarioZucca.com. Like we talked about, I'm on just about every social networking platform there is, so you can find me there too.
Illustrator window.
Illustrator shop.
I remember.
It's gonna be
Thought I would
fun
forget. So, Hilary?
You can see my work and find me and contact me through my website, which is au revoir, but it's oh-revoir.com. And yeah, I'm always open to communicating with people, whether it be email or Twitter or whatnot.
Awesome. So, for recordings of AIGA nightcaps, go to Philadelphia. Because last time I listened to the end of the episode, and I was like, I said AIG like 50 times. But so go to philadelphia.aiga.org. This one should be posted in like a few hours, right?
Yeah, I'm almost done with it now.
Yeah, that's good. That's nice. You work like I tweet.
Yeah.
So, also visit to learn more about upcoming AIGA Philly events. And that's it. That was the end of the season. Everybody have a great summer. We'll be back in September. So, it's a long time from now. So.